privileged children are,
And Elvis wanted her to have everything.
because he didn't really know. He too grew up very, very poor.
Yeah, Poe.
And it's exactly what you said the other day. Poe, right.
Poe.
And he said,
In 1977, the world mourned the death of Elvis Presley, the legendary figure who defined an entire era of music. But since then, a bizarre and persistent theory has taken hold. What if Elvis didn't die at all? Over the years, countless reports and unusual sightings have sparked wild speculation, leading some to believe that the king of rock and roll faked his death and vanished into hiding, leaving behind the glitz and glamour of fame for a quieter life. Could it be possible that Elvis Presley is still among us? In this video, we will explore the most jaw-dropping encounters, the most outlandish conspiracy theories, and the strange pieces of evidence that have fueled this long-running mystery. From alleged phone calls to eerie photographs, we'll dive into the most compelling stories and sightings that continue to suggest that Elvis may not have passed away in 1977 after all. Stay with us as we unravel the most intriguing and bizarre theories surrounding the king's so-called return. The first widely discussed sighting of Elvis Presley after his supposed death occurred shortly after his passing in 1977. On August 16th, the very day the king was said to have passed away, an intriguing report emerged from the Memphis airport. A man who closely resembled Elvis Presley was seen purchasing a one-way ticket to Buenos Aires, Argentina. The individual used the name John Burroughs, an alias Elvis was known to have used when making hotel reservations during his life. This sudden, unexplained trip to Buenos Aires raised eyebrows, as many believed that this mysterious figure was, in fact, Elvis himself, fleeing to live a peaceful life away from the chaos of fame. The man's appearance was strikingly similar to Presley, and the fact that he used an alias commonly linked to Elvis only fueled the speculation. The timing of the incident was also hard to ignore. Elvis, at the height of his fame, would have had the resources and connections to disappear without a trace. Some fans believed that this sighting, along with the use of an alias, was concrete proof that Presley had staged his death to escape the pressures of public life. After this initial sighting, rumors of Elvis being alive began to spread quickly, sparking even more mysterious reports of him being seen in various parts of the world. Some people claimed to have encountered him in places as far-flung as Buenos Aires, while others reported seeing him in different cities in the United States. These sightings became more frequent, with each one providing further fuel to the theory that Elvis had faked his own death. This sighting in Buenos Aires wasn't the only indication that something strange was happening. A few months later, another piece of evidence surfaced in the form of a photograph. This photograph, taken by a visitor to Graceland in late 1977, seemed to show a man who bore a striking resemblance to Elvis Presley relaxing by the pool at his famous mansion. This photograph only added to the growing list of encounters and sightings that fueled the belief that Elvis Presley was still alive and had intentionally vanished from the public eye. The connection between the Buenos Aires sighting and the photo from Graceland created a web of intrigue that left fans and conspiracy theorists alike questioning the circumstances surrounding Elvis's death. Theories surrounding the possibility of Presley faking his death grew stronger, as more and more pieces of evidence began to emerge. The idea that Elvis could have orchestrated such an elaborate disappearance using aliases and carefully planned out steps to vanish from public view became a topic of much speculation. As the years went on, these sightings didn't fade. In fact, they seemed to gain more attention, with fans around the world claiming to have seen Elvis in various places, further cementing the idea that the king may not have died in 1977. With each new sighting, the mystery of Elvis Presley's supposed death deepened, leading many to wonder, did Elvis Presley truly die, or had he been living in secret all along? The Buenos Aires encounter remains one of the most intriguing and discussed sightings in the world of Elvis Presley conspiracy theories. Was this the first sign that the king was still out there, hiding away from the public eye? Only time will tell, but the mystery of Elvis Presley's death and the numerous sightings of him in the years following continue to captivate people around the globe. In December of 1977, only a few months after the death of Elvis Presley, a photograph emerged that would forever intensify the conspiracy theories surrounding his alleged faked death. The image, taken at Graceland, appeared to show a man lounging by the pool, looking remarkably like Elvis Presley. The striking resemblance between the man in the photo and the king himself immediately sparked a wave of speculation. Some of Elvis's closest friends, including Joe Esposito, quickly dismissed the photograph, stating that the man in the image was not Elvis, but someone else entirely. However, others couldn't ignore the uncanny similarities, leading many to believe that the person in the photo was indeed Elvis Presley. The photograph, while controversial, was soon hailed by conspiracy theorists as one of the strongest pieces of evidence that Elvis had faked his own death. It wasn't just the man's appearance that raised suspicions, it was the timing. Just months after the official reports of Elvis's passing, the possibility that the king could be alive and living quietly at Graceland seemed increasingly plausible. The theories about Elvis staging his death and going into hiding gained significant traction after the image surfaced, as it seemed to offer a visual confirmation of the idea that he had never truly passed away. While the photo was immediately dismissed by some, it became an iconic piece of the puzzle for many fans who believed in the conspiracy. They argued that this was one of the first tangible pieces of proof that Elvis had orchestrated his death, using a staged event to escape from the overwhelming pressures of fame. Could it be that the king was still hiding out in his beloved Graceland? Or perhaps traveling under a different identity? This photo raised more questions than it answered, and its presence in the Elvis lore only fueled the growing belief that Elvis Presley was alive. Despite the denials from those close to Elvis, many people continued to point to this photograph as compelling evidence of a much larger mystery. The resemblance was undeniable to those who believed in the theory that Elvis had faked his death. It became a central piece of the argument that Presley had carefully planned his exit from the public eye, using his fame to go into hiding and live a more private life away from the glare of the media. For many, this photograph wasn't just a random image. It was seen as the first visual confirmation that Elvis had not died. To them, it was proof that the king had pulled off the ultimate escape. They argued that no one could have staged such a dramatic exit without a master plan, and that this photo provided a glimpse into the life Elvis had been leading since supposedly faking his death. Even after the photo's release, the debate continued. Was the man in the image truly Elvis, or was it just a look-alike? Many people were convinced that it was the real Elvis, but others were quick to dismiss the idea, citing the fact that the man in the photo didn't look exactly like Elvis had in his prime. Nonetheless, this photograph, along with the other sightings and theories that would soon follow, would forever be intertwined with the legend of Elvis Presley's supposed death. As the years passed, this image remained one of the most enduring pieces of evidence for those who believed Elvis had faked his death. Despite the lack of concrete proof, the photograph was cited time and again as a key element in the ongoing mystery. In the world of conspiracy theories, it became a symbol of the belief that Elvis Presley had found a way to escape the pressures of fame and live a life free from the public's prying eyes. In 1988, a book titled Is Elvis Alive? By author Gail Brewer Giorgio, introduced a claim that would send shockwaves through the Elvis community and conspiracy theorists alike. According to Giorgio, she received a phone call from none other than Elvis Presley himself. The phone call, as Giorgio stated, was recorded and contained a chilling message from the king of rock and roll. In the call, Elvis allegedly explained that he had faked his death to escape the overwhelming pressure of fame and that he had entered the witness protection program. Giorgio went further, suggesting that Elvis had been involved with the mafia and was asked by the FBI to help bring down a dangerous criminal organization. She claimed to have seen FBI documents supporting her assertion that Presley had been secretly assisting law enforcement. While the authenticity of the phone call has been widely questioned, it has certainly added a new layer of intrigue to the already mysterious circumstances surrounding Elvis's death. The idea that Elvis had somehow become entangled in the world of organized crime and government operations was a shocking twist that seemed to support the theory that he had staged his death as part of an elaborate escape plan. For many fans, this revelation was another piece of evidence that suggested Elvis was alive, living a covert life under a new identity. The mystery surrounding this phone call only deepened the conspiracy theories, with many wondering if this was the ultimate confirmation that the king had indeed faked his death. The story took on a life of its own, with Giorgio's book becoming a staple for those who believed in the theory that Elvis had not died, but was still out there, living in the shadows. Critics, however, were quick to dismiss the claim, questioning the legitimacy of the phone call and the veracity of the evidence Giorgio provided. Despite the skepticism, the idea of Elvis in witness protection became a popular topic among those who were convinced that the king had pulled off the greatest stunt in history, vanishing from the public eye and living a life of anonymity. It became a tantalizing possibility for fans who were desperate for a reason to believe that their beloved idol had not truly passed away. The phone call to Giorgio remains one of the most compelling and bizarre aspects of the Elvis Presley mystery. Whether or not it was truly Elvis on the other end of the line, the story added another piece to the puzzle that continues to captivate conspiracy theorists and fans alike. One of the most bizarre claims surrounding Elvis Presley's alleged survival comes from an unexpected source, a scene in the 1990 holiday classic Home Alone. In this particular scene, a bearded man can be seen briefly in the background, leading some viewers to believe that it was none other than Elvis Presley, now aged 55. The man in the shot bears a striking resemblance to an older version of Elvis, and the timing of this appearance has only fueled the speculation. Could it be that Elvis himself made a cameo in this popular film, or is it simply a case of mistaken identity, with a look-alike appearing on screen? The brief moment in Home Alone quickly became a talking point for conspiracy theorists who pointed to the man's facial features, particularly his eyes and hair, as evidence that it was indeed Elvis. At the time the film was released, Elvis would have been in his mid-50s, and the man in the scene does resemble Presley at that age. This theory gained traction among fans who were already convinced that the king of rock and roll faked his death and had been living incognito for years. However, there's no solid proof that the man in the film is Elvis. Some dismiss the idea as pure speculation, while others insist that it's too much of a coincidence. The appearance of a man who looks so much like Presley in such an iconic film only adds to the mystique of Elvis's supposed disappearance. Whether it's a simple case of a bearded man looking like a famous rock star or a clever cameo by the king himself, the debate continues to spark interest among those who believe Elvis might still be alive. This particular sighting in Home Alone is one of the many that have captivated conspiracy theorists. It's a perfect example of how the mystery of Elvis's death has persisted over the years, with each new sighting or piece of evidence adding fuel to the fire. As strange as it may seem, the possibility of Elvis appearing in a Christmas movie only adds another layer to the intrigue surrounding his alleged survival. In the late 1980s, several residents of Kalamazoo, Michigan, reported seeing none other than Elvis Presley himself wandering through the local area. According to multiple witnesses, the king of rock and roll was spotted walking around in a white jumpsuit, a signature outfit that was synonymous with his stage persona. These strange sightings allegedly took place in various locations, including a local supermarket, where Elvis was said to have been shopping just like any other person. But the most bizarre part of the story came when people claimed to have seen him at a nearby Burger King, ordering his favorite fast food, Whoppers. The idea that Elvis, who was believed to have passed away more than a decade earlier, was casually walking through public spaces in a familiar white jumpsuit raised many questions. Some conspiracy theorists argue that these sightings were not just random appearances, but part of a larger, deliberate plan by Elvis to return to public life under the radar. They suggest that he carefully orchestrated these encounters to confirm his survival while remaining anonymous, blending in with the public and feeding into the growing belief that he had faked his death. Witnesses who reported these sightings believed that Elvis was actively participating in a quiet, everyday life, avoiding the attention that would have come with his famous identity. The stories of him enjoying a Whopper at Burger King, one of his known favorite fast food chains, only added to the intrigue and authenticity of the claims. Given Elvis's well-known love for the fast food chain, it seemed almost too perfect to be a coincidence. Was this really the king of rock and roll, taking refuge in the mundane moments of life? Or was it simply a case of misidentification? These reports from Kalamazoo only added to the growing web of sightings that were fueling the Elvis is alive conspiracy. People who believed that Elvis faked his death were quick to point to these incidents as evidence that he was still out there, living a quiet life in places where fans would least expect to find him. As the stories continued to spread, the notion that Elvis was carefully hiding in plain sight began to seem more and more plausible to those who were desperate for a reason to believe their idol had never really died. The sightings in Kalamazoo were just one chapter in the ongoing saga of Elvis Presley's supposed survival. But they served as one of the more vivid and believable stories for fans and theorists alike. The combination of the white jumpsuit, the Burger King Whopper, and the casual nature of the sightings made it easy for some to imagine that this was indeed Elvis Presley returning to the world he had once dominated, this time under the guise of an ordinary man. In the late 1980s, several residents of Kalamazoo, Michigan, reported seeing none other than Elvis Presley himself wandering through the local area. According to multiple witnesses, the king of rock and roll was spotted walking around in a white jumpsuit, a signature outfit that was synonymous with his stage persona. These strange sightings allegedly took place in various locations, including a local supermarket, where Elvis was said to have been shopping just like any other person. But the most bizarre part of the story came when people claimed to have seen him at a nearby Burger King, ordering his favorite fast food, Whoppers. The idea that Elvis, who was believed to have passed away more than a decade earlier, was casually walking through public spaces in a familiar white jumpsuit raised many questions. Some conspiracy theorists argue that these sightings were not just random appearances, but part of a larger, deliberate plan by Elvis to return to public life under the radar. They suggest that he carefully orchestrated these encounters to confirm his survival while remaining anonymous, blending in with the public and feeding into the growing belief that he had faked his death. Witnesses who reported these sightings believed that Elvis, was actively participating in a quiet, everyday life, avoiding the attention that would have come with his famous identity. The stories of him enjoying a Whopper at Burger King, one of his known favorite fast food chains, only added to the intrigue and authenticity of the claims. Given Elvis's well-known love for the fast food chain, it seemed almost too perfect to be a coincidence. Was this really the king of rock and roll, taking refuge in the mundane moments of life? Or was it simply a case of misidentification? These reports from Kalamazoo only added to the growing web of sightings that were fueling the Elvis is alive conspiracy. People who believed that Elvis faked his death were quick to point to these incidents as evidence that he was still out there, living a quiet life in places where fans would least expect to find him. As the stories continued to spread, the notion that Elvis was carefully hiding in plain sight began to seem more and more plausible to those who were desperate for a reason to believe their idol had never really died. The sightings in Kalamazoo were just one chapter in the ongoing saga of Elvis Presley's supposed survival. But they served as one of the more vivid and believable stories for fans and theorists alike. The combination of the white jumpsuit, the Burger King Whopper, and the casual nature of the sightings made it easy for some to imagine that this was indeed Elvis Presley, returning to the world he had once dominated, this time under the guise of an ordinary man. In 2017, a photograph surfaced online that reignited the debate about Elvis Presley's survival. The image showed a man with a white beard, surrounded by security guards, standing in front of Graceland on what would have been Elvis's 82nd birthday. The man's appearance sparked a wave of speculation among fans, with many convinced that the figure in the photo was, in fact, Elvis Presley himself. Some theorized that the security guards surrounding him were there to protect the king from the prying eyes of the public, ensuring that his true identity remained hidden. This photograph seemed to provide the perfect opportunity for conspiracy theorists to claim that Elvis was alive and living in secret. But the evidence wasn't as clear-cut as some had hoped. Despite the excitement generated by the photo, there were significant doubts about whether the man in the picture was really Elvis. When compared to known images of Presley in his later years, the resemblance was not as striking as many had anticipated. Some fans pointed out that the man's facial features didn't match those of Elvis as closely as expected, especially when it came to the shape of his eyes and overall expression. While the idea of Elvis being alive continued to captivate some, this photograph did not provide the conclusive proof that many had been hoping for. Nevertheless, the image did reignite the conversation about the possibility that Elvis had faked his death and was living in hiding. The fact that the photo appeared on such a significant anniversary, the 82nd birthday of the king, only fueled the speculation. Could it be that Elvis had staged his death all those years ago and had been quietly living out his life, only reappearing now and then to stir the curiosity of his fans? While the man in the photo didn't bear a perfect resemblance to Elvis, the idea that he might be the real Elvis was enough to spark further investigation and keep the conspiracy theories alive. The photograph, along with its accompanying story, provided a fresh chapter in the ongoing saga of Elvis Presley's alleged survival. It offered another glimpse into the mystery that has surrounded the king for decades, leaving fans to wonder if the truth behind Elvis's death would ever be revealed. For some, this image was yet another piece of the puzzle suggesting that Elvis might have faked his death all those years ago. For years, fans of Elvis Presley have speculated that his headstone at Graceland may contain a hidden message, one that could reveal the truth about his supposed death. One of the most intriguing aspects of his gravestone is the way his middle name is spelled. On the tombstone, Elvis's middle name is written as Aaron, but many believe it was originally supposed to be spelled Aaron. in accordance with his wish to honor his late twin brother, Jesse Garon Presley, who died at birth. This misspelling has led some fans to suggest that it wasn't a simple mistake, but rather a deliberate clue left by Elvis himself. The idea is that Presley intentionally had his name altered on the tombstone to signal to his fans that he had faked his death, providing a cryptic message for those willing to decipher it. Conspiracy theorists argue that this error is too significant to be dismissed as an oversight. They believe that Elvis, ever the showman, would have crafted a subtle clue in his final resting place as part of a grand plan to let the world know that he wasn't really gone. Some even suggest that the intentional misspelling was a way for Elvis to keep the mystery alive, ensuring that future generations would continue to question the circumstances surrounding his death. To these theorists, the headstone isn't just a memorial, it's a puzzle waiting to be solved, a hidden message left behind by the king for his most devoted followers. This theory is compelling, but it's important to note that there are no solid answers. The possibility that the error was a mistake rather than a deliberate clue remains, and many still question whether this misspelling truly holds any meaning. However, for those who believe in the Elvis survival theory, the misspelled name is a piece of the puzzle that adds to the mounting evidence that Elvis faked his death. It's an enigma that continues to spark conversation among fans and conspiracy theorists alike, with each new theory adding fuel to the fire. Despite the speculation surrounding the tombstone, the idea that the name discrepancy was intentional remains a matter of debate. Was Elvis truly planning to leave behind a clue for his fans, or was it just a coincidence? Whatever the case may be, the misspelling has become one of the most iconic pieces of evidence for those who believe Elvis is still alive. In 2016, a video surfaced online that would soon go viral, adding another layer to the growing mystery surrounding Elvis Presley's alleged survival. The footage showed an elderly man working as a groundskeeper at Graceland, the legendary mansion where Elvis lived and was buried. The man, who appeared to be in his 80s, was wearing a baseball cap and a t-shirt as he went about his work. However, what caught the attention of many viewers was how strikingly similar he looked to an older Elvis Presley. The resemblance was uncanny, leading some to believe that the man in the video wasn't just a groundskeeper, but Elvis himself, still alive and living in secret. Despite the fact that Graceland staff quickly identified the man as Bill Barmer, a longtime employee of the estate, many fans and conspiracy theorists refused to let go of the idea that this was, in fact, the king of rock and roll. They pointed to the man's appearance, his gait, and the fact that he was working at Graceland, a place so closely tied to Elvis's legacy. The video quickly became a sensation, with many questioning whether this could be the most solid piece of evidence yet, that Elvis had faked his death and was living in plain sight, disguised as an elderly groundskeeper. The video not only reignited interest in the Elvis is alive conspiracy, but also sparked a heated debate among fans and critics alike. Was it truly Elvis, or was it just another look-alike? A coincidence that the man happened to resemble the famous rock star? The staff at Graceland were quick to affirm that the man was indeed Bill Barmer, a familiar face around the estate for years. Yet, the viral video continued to stir up speculation, with many refusing to accept the explanation and holding on to the belief that Elvis had never truly left. This incident was just another chapter in the ongoing saga of Elvis Presley's supposed survival, further fueling the conspiracy that the king was still alive. The eerie similarity between the man in the video and Elvis, coupled with the fact that he was working at Graceland, only added to the mystery. For many, this footage seemed like the perfect piece of evidence to support the theory that Elvis had somehow managed to evade death and was still living among us. In 1989, a passionate group of Elvis fans from Ottawa, Canada, took their belief in Elvis Presley's survival to the next level by founding the Elvis Sightings Society. The group was established with one core purpose: to track and document every reported sighting of Elvis Presley, convinced that the king was still alive and living among us. The Society's members dedicated themselves to keeping the mystery of Elvis's survival alive by collecting reports of his appearances and sharing them with the world. They were determined to prove that Elvis had faked his death and had been quietly living out his life in anonymity. Over the years, the Elvis Sightings Society became more than just a fan club. It grew into an organization that was committed to charitable work in Elvis's honor. One of the group's most significant contributions was the creation of Elvis Lives Lane, a street in Ottawa named after the king, which serves as a lasting tribute to their belief that Elvis had never truly left. The Society's efforts to celebrate his legacy and keep his memory alive continue to this day, as they organize events and fundraising initiatives to benefit the community, all while perpetuating the mystery of Elvis's alleged survival. The Elvis Sightings Society remains a fascinating testament to the devotion of fans who refuse to let go of the idea that Elvis Presley is still out there. For those who belong to the Society, the search for proof that Elvis is alive is an ongoing mission. They are convinced that every reported sighting, no matter how small or fleeting, brings them one step closer to uncovering the truth. Their dedication to the king's legacy has fostered a sense of community among believers, and their ongoing charitable work reflects their admiration for Elvis and their commitment to keeping his spirit alive in the hearts of fans. As time passes, the group continues to track new sightings and share their findings, contributing to the ever-growing list of Elvis encounters. The Elvis Sightings Society has become an integral part of the narrative surrounding Elvis's supposed survival, creating a space for fans who believe that the king is still living among us, whether in plain sight or hidden away. As we've explored, the mystery of Elvis Presley's death remains one of the greatest unanswered questions in pop culture. From strange phone calls and unsettling photographs to unverified sightings, the belief that Elvis could still be alive continues to captivate his fans. While many of these stories may be the result of coincidences or hoaxes, they still spark intense curiosity and ongoing debate among those who are fascinated by the idea that the king of rock and roll may have never truly left us. The stories of Elvis's supposed survival have persisted for decades, and the mystery surrounding his death shows no signs of fading. So, what do you think? Do you believe Elvis Presley is still alive? Or is it all just an elaborate conspiracy? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear what you think. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into one of the most intriguing mysteries of all time. Don't forget to subscribe for more explorations into the world's greatest unsolved mysteries.